Your cell phone.
So long as it is on, it is transmitting and receiving data.
It is always communicating with the towers. It has to ping back and forth between the towers and device, in order for a call to route to you, a text message to be delivered. It would be impossible for you to have a cell phone and have it work, without continuously giving your location to the cell phone company.
Typically, a cell phone communicates through the closest tower. But the transmission is also picked up by a second tower, usually farther away. The signal arrives at the second tower nanoseconds after the first. Tracking technology plots the points on a map that would create that precise delay. The potential locations fall on a curve.
Between any two towers, a time difference is spelled out by a curve.
Using at least two other towers, they calculate a second and then a third curve. The point at which the three curves intersect is the location of the phone.
That is part of what the National Security Agency is grabbing from all cell carriers, in bulk, without a warrant. In bulk means for everyone. All the time.
The NSA specifically targets the communications of everyone. It ingests them by default. It collects them in its system, and it filters them, and it analyzes them, and it measures them, and it stores them for periods of time.
The root of the problem here is that the data, once acquired, is never erased, and thus becomes a record that can be used at any time in the future, if it becomes expedient to use in order to implicate you in something.
Because even if you're not doing anything wrong, you're being watched and recorded, and the storage capability of these systems increases every year consistently by orders of magnitude, to where it's getting to the point you don't have to have done anything wrong. You simply have to eventually fall under suspicion from somebody, even by a wrong call, and then they can use the system to go back in time and scrutinize every decision you've ever made, every friend you've ever discussed something with, and attack you on that basis to sort of derive suspicion from an innocent life and paint anyone in the context of a wrongdoer.
This problem does not exist only among government spooks. If anything, it is far worse in the private industry segment, and the use of this data for legitimate purposes happens every single day. In a brief filed this summer in federal court, lawyers for Google said people should not expect privacy when they send messages to a Gmail account.
Just as a sender of a letter to a business colleague cannot be surprised that the recipient's assistant opens the letter, people who use web-based email today cannot be surprised if their emails are processed by the recipient's email provider in the course of delivery. Indeed, a person has no legitimate expectation of privacy and information he voluntarily turns over to third parties.
You have no expectation of privacy, Google is arguing, since you gave Google the email to route it to its destination. It's the same thing for your documents that you gave to them to store on Google Drive, your calendar and contacts data, and the voice calls you make using Google Voice. You gave all those to them, Google argues. You also gave them, Google argues, your location when you turned on your Android phone, and you may have given Google your exact location if you used Google Maps. If you think that any email, or other communication, you have generated and allowed someone else to have, has been effectively deleted, due to either time, or due to you pressing the delete button, is actually gone, you're nuts. It's not. You email a friend something critical of Republicans or Democrats. Next year, or 5 years later, you are rejected for a job, because that email is part of your profile, and the owner is a hardcore partisan. You get a special designation on your airline boarding passes because you posted a prayer on Facebook, but the permissions on it were set to friends only. And when you try to find out why you have that coding on your boarding passes, the government won't tell you. And remember, your health insurance company has intense interest in the fact that your cell phone is telling that you spend 3 nights a week at the local bar. The problem is that this data about your location or your emails is owned by the companies, not you, and once they have it, they can do with it whatever they want. The more of that data you give them, the more accurate their profile of you becomes, and the more inputs that can be aggregated together by someone, the more accurate the profile is as well. If I can aggregate where you go with your emails, then I can construct a very accurate profile of how you live, of who you are.